Alright, so let's log into IMS and take a look at the various options made available to the sales team. Put in your user ID and your password, click Login, and this menu appears. Our focus is going to be in the sales section. There'll be many things that are blocked out and restricted in regards to a sales rep having access. So let's click on the top left, Sales. A new submenu opens up. New sales order is where, after you win a deal, you go ahead and actually put the ordering in of the equipment. So up here in the Deal ID section, this is actually the number that is your opportunity number. Every opportunity that we create within an account in CRM has a deal number or job number automatically assigned to it. We would put that here, select customer, type in the name of a customer, then select them from this list. Some fields will populate. I'll just use this as an example. We would choose the order type, like equipment lease is very popular, or equipment purchase. Those are the two majority order types that a sales rep will process. A little further down here is where you would order the equipment, select the machine, and then the available accessories that are assigned to that deal, how you sold it. And further down here, we have a return section where if we're returning a TGI customer, we do what's called the upgrade to keep. We'd keep that coded as a trade-in. If it's a competitor, over here, this section we would focus on. We would put like Xerox 7200. We'd put the serial number here, competitive leasing company, and lease number here, with the contact's email address here, which is also put in back at the top over here for delivery contact email. They're typically the same. So that's the section for new sales order. We're going to really focus a little bit more on existing MIF lease expirations. These are the accounts that are assigned to you. Credit apps and approvals. Credit apps, look up by ID. So if I look up by ID here I could put the equipment or serial number. We typically search by equipment ID number. It's just a shorter series of numbers, and you could enter it quicker, and we'll get that from the equipment MIF, which I'll show after. But here we could look at meter history, service calls, which also will provide you with a description, and I'll get back to this once we get into the equipment MIF, and supply orders to see when they ordered supplies. So this is a good section here for a sales rep, which was under lookup by ID. Credit apps, let's open up. Here, this section over here is if we're doing a new deal and we have to run a lease approval, which would go to the leasing department. You'd put the existing information here. If we're doing an upgrade, you typically are going to use the same leasing company who they're with right now. The term in months of the new deal, the monthly amount, total dollar amount or total funding of the deal, purchase option, which is typically FMV, fair market value, and equipment manufacturer. We use HP, we have Lanier, Lexmark, and Toshiba. You do not see Ricoh here. Ricoh is the Lanier. You would select Lanier for anything Ricoh sold. We sell products under the Ricoh, the true original OEM brand, not Lanier. Over here on the right side where it says upgrade info, here is where we would go ahead and request a UTK or an upgrade to keep. This lets us know the remaining obligation on the existing lease, and it's easiest to again do the equipment ID number and put in here and select search. I'll go back to this after, once we get into the equipment MIF, and we'll select one of your accounts and their equipment ID number here. Whenever I do a credit app, I usually will put in, I'll go to sunbiz.org and I'll put in the federal tax ID number. You'll notice there's no asterisks here. These asterisks are required when you run a credit app or if you're actually doing a request for an upgrade. you still have to fill out this information here from lessee down to zip. If we want a new lease approval, try to put in the federal tax ID. It makes it a little easier for the leasing company to locate the name that you submitted by checking an actual tax ID number. So let me get out of this section, which was the credit apps. Credit app approvals. This is the section where we can see the lease approvals. We need the lease approval document whenever we process a lease. We also, if a lease is declined, the declinations will go here as well. And the upgrade to keep quotes will also go here in the credit app approval section. What I do once I get into here is I click at the top pending. I like to just do all. Show me everything. You'll only see as a sales rep information that pertains to your accounts and your submissions. So over here, this has my information as the sales rep. I can search by, let me widen this column. Let me select date, and it'll give me a more current instead of a furthest away or an oldest. So I did this earlier today on 9/12, Avocado Administrator. I asked for, it says no approval requested. Upgrade was already uploaded, it means. So the leasing department has given us the upgrade. I highlight this account and I hit View Upgrade, because if I hit View Approval, no file has been uploaded. I never asked for a lease approval. I just wanted to see, A, is there still a lease on it, and what is the remaining obligation? So with this highlighted, we would hit View Upgrade. Now a document will load. So this lease is with DLL. And at this point, $497.95 is owed on this lease. It's a 3505. Always look out to see if there's a second page and not just the first page. So it says remaining payments are 0, and it's essentially basically a buyout. But if we went to upgrade this account, because notice it says here, full equipment rollover with purchase. It's not a traditional upgrade to keep because there's no balance, and this lease has been in renewal. So at this point, it's essentially the buyout amount, and it's $497.95 that we would be adding to a new deal if we got a new deal with the client and they wanted to proceed with a new alternative. So this section of credit app approvals is where we go. Select here all, hit get data. This will be your lease approvals, your lease declinations, and your upgrade quotes that will get uploaded by the leasing department so you could see what money is owed to be factored into your new transaction. Let's take a look at existing MIF lease expirations. What I do, it says rep status pending all by default. Just click all so you could see everything that you got that's assigned to you. So right now it says record count 1,314. That's because this has my accounts, James Kaufman's accounts, and your accounts. So as the sales manager, I have a view of more accounts. So for these purposes, let's look at what you're going to see, which is just Jonathan's accounts. I click OK. It says there's 108 records here, but we know many of them have duplicates. Here, and I believe the number was 5253 existing accounts. So what I like to do is I like to sort this by A through Z. So if I click on the customer here, the customer tab, it's going to give me an A through Z account list. Now we want to pay attention to the fields here, because here's equipment number, your equipment ID. If you see something that starts EQ and has DLR means dealer, which means this is probably an out-of-service deal that an external dealer is servicing for us. This was an account we happened to look up, and this says it was in Beverly Hills, California. So let's look at the fields. These are your equipment ID numbers. Remember, we're going to use these to pull upgrade to keep quotes. We're going to use these with the lookup by ID section for meter reads, service history, and supply orders that were placed by the customer. So over here we have the equipment ID number. Here we have a serial number. This lets me know TM means time and materials, which means if the account is active, this is something that they could typically own. The asset is owned, and that there is no service contract. T&M means anything they need, they have to pay for a la carte, is TM. But if we take a look over here, which we looked at earlier for America, this was equipment 134801. This is a DLL lease number 255, that scheme. We could verify that by clicking over here, going over a little further here and seeing the leasing company. Here's the machine. It's an MPC Color Rico 3504. I look over a little further. DLL, there's the lease number. It began October 2018 and ends October 2023. Total payment is here, $267. That's made up of $210 for equipment and $57 for service. When we put in for a lease approval, we always put in a lease approval for a dollar amount that's minus the service. So here it's $210 and $57 to make up $267. You would be putting in a lease approval requesting a funding amount of $200, $210 for your equipment payment, that divided by your term and lease rate. So a 60-month lease rate today is 0207. 39-month lease rate is 0286. So you would take that payment that you come up with service excluded, divide it by the lease rate, and that's your total dollar amount and total funding amount that you would put in the credit application section in the appropriate field. So let me look for an account to use as an example that's not a dealer or out-of-state machine. I also want to look here. This has contract status, active and terminated. We did discuss how we could see over here that there are some accounts that show as terminated, but then there are active accounts. So for this particular customer, a lot of the older account leases would show as terminated, but they've been upgraded. Now, some accounts unfortunately are lost, and there are no upgraded accounts. They're just terminated and lost and gone to another company. But over here, if we look at Anillo Toledo, we see they have a wide format machine. They have a color copier. It's on, this is DLL, their new lease number scheme from the 243s, 244s, 255s here. DLL is now more of the 500 dash and then a series of numbers here. Let's use this machine as an example from Andrew Coffey, and the equipment ID number is 147480. It's going to be a 2515 AC Toshiba color copier. 147480. Let's go back to the sales tab and go to look up by ID. 1471, I think 180 or 480. 180 underscore FL. Must put in underscore FL. Let's hit get data. Nothing has been found. Let's change that 1 to a 4. Hit get data. And there it is. So it's 147480. Do not forget, when you're doing searches or upgrade to keep quotes, you want to put in the equipment number underscore FL. So over here, I have the meter history for this 2515. The last meter read we have is from 9/10 or 48 hours ago, 2 days ago. These reads that you see are total, what's on the machine cumulative since inception. So this is the total between color and black and white. This tells me that there's color of 3,100 pages and black and white of 41,486. So not a lot of color being done and far more black and white, but still not a lot of black and white for this to be a few years old. If I click on service calls here and leave the equipment number there and hit get data, this tells me service history. So the machine, it says, was installed in 12/20/20 here, IT install, and they put FM audit on it. FM audit is basically setting up these copiers to report back meter reads electronically back to TGI, which is what also helps give visibility to running these types of reports through IMS having line of sight. So if 12/20 was installed and we're in almost 12/22, that would be 24 months minus 3 months for being September. So equipment is on site for 21 months right now. So if I go back to meter history, and I know it's there 21 months, 21 months, 21 times 2 is 42. So I know they're averaging about 2,000 pages a month. But if I also look over here, it tells me the average monthly is 1988 for black and white. Color, 3,100. It lets me know if I take 3126, see if I could pull up a calculator. 3126 divided by 21 months is about only 148 color copies a month, but it says here 248. So I'd want to investigate it a little bit further. It's not far off, and they're pretty close. And at the end of the day, it's letting us know that they're not doing a ton of color and that they're averaging about 2,000 pages a month. So they're probably using 4 or 5 reams of paper a month, which is half a case of paper. If I go down to the third tick here is supply orders, hit get data. This lets us know when they ordered supplies. So it looks like their last supply order, they got a black, a cyan, a magenta, a yellow, and a waste toner. So they got a full set of supplies for their machine. Was ordered on May 2022, which is 4 months ago. I don't see anything earlier than that. Based on the amount of usage that they're really doing, it's possible that they did go a little over a year and a half, 22 months, on the first initial full black toner, and now it needs at least some of the colors. So this could be a very much an accurate meter read, especially since you see what the yield per bottle is, and you know they're only doing 150 to 250 color a month. So this makes sense. This could be the first time in almost 2 years they actually needed to order supplies. But let's get out of the lookup by ID section, but let's keep this 147480 number, and let's take a look at, let's get into the credit apps section. 147480. I'm going to close out of here. Let's go to credit apps. I was just in lookup by ID. Over here for upgrade information, 147480. Remember underscore FL and hit search. Now we're going to want to pull the upgrade to keep quote, which is the predominant quote that we're supposed to use, which is getting the upgrade to keep quote versus an upgrade to return quote, where you would add a $400 return charge into your deal. So I put this in, I hit search. It's going to give me a list of an account. There it is. So I just double click anywhere. I usually just do it on customer name here on what you see as being yellow. Double click it, and all this information pre-populates. Upgrade comments, please provide UTK quote. I'd write that in there, a little note to our leasing administrator. But also over here, if I'm just getting a quote, if I'm not requesting a credit app, I can at the same time for a lease approval. I could fill out the information here. I already know it's a DLL lease, so I go to DLL. Choose your term. Usually whatever existing term they're on, you would normally keep them on that same term, but you'd always verified that. Let's say this was a 60-month lease, hit 60. The monthly dollar amount, let's say the payment was $250 a month. That was, let's say, $50 for service and $200 for the equipment. You don't put in $250, you put the equipment, we take service out. So put in $200. Now I know $200, 60 months, the lease rate is 0207. I go back to my calculator and I go $200, equipment only, divided by my rate term, 0207, equals 96.61. So for total dollar amount, I could put in 96.62. I could put in even $10,000 in there if I wanted. You want to keep it close, either accurate to the next dollar, or you could go if you think you'd need a few $100s more. purchase option, most likely it's FMV, and this was an eStudio 2515. Let's assume you'll stay with the same manufacturer. You select Toshiba. Lessee, you got to put the information in here. All the asterisks have to go in, whether you're asking for a lease approval for a new deal or not, and you just want the upgrade quote. Still have to put this info in. Well, Andrew M. Coffee, PA, so I could right-click, copy it, then go Control, hold down Control and hit V, which is paste. Andrew Coffee goes in there. Who's my contact? Well, let's go into the account in CRM to see who that is. I start typing Andrew M. Coffee. Here we go. Here's the account. I look in the top right corner for owner. It's you. Who's the contact? Well, it's the actual owner, Andrew Coffee. There's the phone number. I'm going to highlight that, right-click, and hit copy. I go back here, and I can put in who the contact is, Andrew Coffee. I don't have to put M. Coffee in. Phone, make sure you're in the first character over there. Hit Control-V. So that didn't copy over right, so what I'm going to do is it's 467-5700. 954-467-6700. Put the phone number in. Address, go back to the CRM entry. Let's scroll down a little bit. 208 Southeast 6th Street. 208 SE 6th Street. City, we'll call it, I think it was Fort Lauderdale, doesn't matter. I'm taking all this information from the CRM record. I don't need to put in, if I'm requesting an upgrade, I don't need a federal tax ID. Current customer, I still don't need a federal tax ID because they're already in our system and they were previously approved. So chances are they'll find the account. I usually put the tax ID in for, especially more so if it is a new account. An existing account we already have. So this is all good right here. I would hit submit. But if I hit submit, you'll notice a pop-up now, which is relatively new for us. It says the deal number you entered is not a valid deal number in CRM. Go back to the account. Look under your opportunities. In this case, the open opportunity is this deal that somebody before you said it would be upgraded in 2024. So if I get into this actual opportunity and I click it, typically every opportunity created should at least have the mainframe put in there of what may be sold. And it does. It has the 3515 and the GD 1370 fax. Scroll down further. Every opportunity automatically generates a deal number. So I would put this 168810 at the very top. 168810. Then I would click submit and it says your credit app is submitted. So now this goes to leasing, and two things were requested here. One, give me a new approval in the top for the new lease information for a new deal I want to write, and also give me the upgrade UTK quote for the account so I have both pieces of information. So for here, I'm going to just get out of here. I'm not going to submit that. So existing MIF, these are the accounts that are assigned to you. Has the item or machine. Sometimes there's a location note. Customer. Avocado Administration, for example. They're in an active lease from 11/2017 to 2/2021, which means this is in automatic renewal for over a year. It's almost going on to 2 years. So this is about 19 months they're in an automatic renewal. Let's scroll over. We know how to read start and end dates. I do want to show you something else though. Let's look for accounts that show start dates of 1900. Here where you see the start and end dates are a little, something seems off. When you just put a new deal into the system, it can take several months for it to look like this with the actual start date, the end date, the payment, and the breakout of the payment between equipment and service. So sometimes a new deal, it could be 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 months later, where it still looks like this in the system, where you don't have specific information as far as payment, start and end dates, even a lease number or leasing company. So don't feel like something is necessarily wrong. It takes several months for this to get updated, to have the information look like this from 2020 to 2025. So don't be thrown off by that. So over here, a quick recap. Existing MIFs lets you look at your existing customers that you have. And remember, not everything is necessarily a leased machine. Let's click here at the top, make it all here, hit get data. Takes a few seconds for your accounts to load. Let's isolate back to just your accounts. Here, this says purchased. So, and it's active, but has these dates of 1900, 1900. So TM, time and materials. This is an older model that looks like a 24-inch HP Design Jet T830 model that they paid $47.52. I don't know from looking at this information when they purchased it, so I would send an email to Contracts NY, which many times will be Michelle Nieves, who handles the request, and I would say, please send sales packet for EQ 133606. Try to give the equipment ID number, and they'll look to see if they have the sales packet. If they don't, they'll let you know. On occasion, if it's an older deal, they may have to request information that could take a few days from the leasing company. But most of the stuff you'll see that you'll be working with from today forward will be contracts that we do have in our possession that are readily available to be released to you shortly after the request. So let me get out of here. So existing MIF, credit app approvals. We go here as this is a recap. Credit app approvals. We'll get our lease approvals, our lease declinations, and the upgrade to keep quotes to help us do a new structure, a new transaction, and to see what's actually remaining on the existing contract so we could properly price out a new deal. Credit apps here, we talked about, here's where you request your UTK, and you could also on the top left section over here request a new lease approval. So you could do just an upgrade here. You can do just for a new account that doesn't have an existing machine, just put in a lease approval, or you could do both when it's a current customer. You tick lead off here at the top when you get a buyer's own lead. Those are leads that we subscribe to a buyer's own service. It goes out to multiple copier companies, so you're not the only phone call or email going there. You can check that box off, which means that the deal ID number gets grayed out, so there's no number for you to put in. If you get something from the telemarketing team, David Miller or Becca, you can tick off lead. Something from the TGI website, maybe someone internally like Vinny will forward a lead out to the Florida office for you to work. But that's where lead would be checked off, where you don't have to put a deal ID in. Look up by ID. You can pull up meter reads, service history, and supply orders for your customer. Use the equipment number and make sure whatever the number is, you put _FL. I think whether it's lowercase or uppercase FL, I don't think that matters. So just remember to put in _FL when you're making these requests. New sales order at the top. That's where typically the sales manager will go ahead and order the equipment for the rep for the deal that was closed out. Open orders. We'll take a peek at what open orders is. Here you could also alphabetize A through Z. So as a sales manager, we get a wider view, but this gives you a little bit of an idea. Whenever you put an order, or I should say whenever the sales manager creates the order for equipment up here in new sales order, once submit is pressed and this passes what's called a document check, for every deal that we do, we have to upload the sales agreement, the maintenance contract, a lease approval. We have what's called the pass-through, where it's a little breakout of the service. There's a separate Excel spreadsheet for that. All these forms go into Deal Creator, which is that EMP website, which I'll pull up quickly here for you, which you've seen. Once you log in here, this is what lets you download your latest copy here of your price guide and Deal Creator. Let me get into Deal Creator and let's go open up one of my accounts. I go to my latest deals. So Marmat Homes, I put this in. It's a current customer up the block. I'm going to select that and I'm going to go to Docs right here. And I'm going to go to View All Docs. I want to look at all docs that I uploaded. Again, I'm going to have to do a login. So I have my username, which yours will look like this scheme. You don't have to put TGIOA/ in. No domain here, plus your password and sign in. Once I sign in, right now all the documents associated with this deal are populated in here. Here's my order agreement, the commission worksheet, the maintenance contract, TGI monitor. This is where we ask the customer to fill out a form to allow us to basically hook up like FM Audit, where the machine will report back electronic meters for accurate billing, whether we're billing them monthly or quarterly, which is usually quarterly, but you can't assume that. You always have to verify for overages and excess usage. Here's lease agreement. Let me double click on this. So a copy of the lease document that I uploaded is going to populate on my screen right now. And there it is. So they had a 3515 AC. I literally, about 3 weeks ago, upgraded them. When was this signed? 8/23. So we're 2.5, 3 weeks ago. I took them from a 3515 to the brand new 3525C model. They had a 39-month lease. I kept them in that. There's their lease payment. And within that payment is service and supplies. So we'll discuss separately how we upload documents when we get a deal into Deal Creator. Let me get out of that. But once a deal is actually uploaded and submitted, that will show in your open order status over here. Left column says job number. The job number is actually the deal number that gets automatically generated in CRM. So when you're creating a new opportunity or you're working within maybe an existing opportunity that was created by the rep before you, over here in the left column, the job number is the deal number associated with CRM. After the manager submits the sales order for the new piece of equipment to be ordered, you get what's called an SO, which is a sales order number. You'll see when I click SO here, right in this section, it tells you the machine. If I go to a different account and I hit SO, you'll see I have a machine, but now there's a document feeder, there's a fax card, there's accessories. So sometimes it's just like you'll see with many of the HP machines, it's just the machine itself as a copy, print, scan configuration, not even a fax card on this particular deal. RMA is a return. So for Advanced Healthcare, my account, I have an SO for a new machine, 52645, tabletop A4 black and white, and the RMA of what I'm actually picking up for this account was a floor standing 3508A 35 page per minute Toshiba machine. So for this particular account, their volumes have drastically dropped off. Small physician's office, mostly electronic. So we downsized them from a 3508A to a tabletop HP A4 monochrome machine. They had an existing monochrome machine here as well. So if you want to see all the sales orders associated with under your account and your name, up here under order selection at the top, tick the show all orders box and then hit refresh. It'll take a couple of seconds, but all the accounts that are assigned to you with open orders, the SOs for new equipment orders, RMAs for pickups, sometimes we're picking up, sometimes we're not, it'll all show here. And when you select each entry, further down, it lets you know what it is that's been ordered, what the machines were. So let's get out of that. So for now, that should be a good overview and help you out a little bit.